planning this talk, I thought initially that I was going to be presenting on the various initiatives that universities are taking to address student mental health and the joys and challenges associated with those initiatives. And because we know that increasing numbers of students are entering university with mental illness and developing problems while there. Lots of students experiencing bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, panic disorder, lots of different things. And so we know that it's a problem that's here and that's not going to go away and is forecasted to maybe even get worse in the future. And fortunately, universities are realizing this and actually starting to take steps to address it. Lots of really great initiatives. Bounce Back, the Jack Project, we've got Mental Health Weeks. Bishop's just finished the Mental Health Week, which was great. I see that they had a puppy room, which looked fabulous. I wish I had been here for that. So lots of great things. And Acadia is no different. We've got lots of good things at Acadia happening as well. We have a relatively newly formed mental health society. That's a student organization that does things like promote the Bell Let's Talk campaign and other things like Chill Week that's aimed to help students reduce their stress, mental health trivia night, lots of different things. And the Acadia Students Union is really behind it. They've been supporting in many different ways, especially financially, which is fabulous. So lots of great things going on there. We're thinking about centralizing our resources, our health center and our counseling services, so it's more accessible to students and to reduce the stigma. Great things. Last term, we held a mental health panel. It was actually Student Services got this together. And we had a student, an alumna, and a professor actually get up and bravely share their challenges with their mental illnesses. And the students really, I think it was a very powerful experience for students because they realized that others, including professors, are struggling with many of the same issues. So it was really great. So lots of great things happening that students are pushing and student services are pushing. Great to see. And I thought, well, what about the academic sector? How does the academic sector embrace student mental health? And I thought about myself as an academic. And I thought, what do I do in my courses? How do I embrace mental health in my own courses and mental illness? And when I have my academic hat on, my job is to teach students, to broaden their minds, to foster critical thinking, to set academic standards, and to evaluate them, students on these, to see if they meet them. I test students, I teach them, I supervise them in research. I talk about the necessity of doing well at the undergraduate level so that they can get into graduate school or med school or law school or to get a good job. So I talk about things like GPAs, GREs, LSATs, MCATs, GMATs. And it really isn't until a student is experiencing some kind of mental health trouble that I might suggest counseling services. It's only on my radar when a student comes to me and lets me know that there's an issue that I might do something. And I'm taking a very reactive approach when this happens. Because after all, I have lots of demands on my time, lots of students in my courses. Counseling's not my job as an academic, so that's really all that I can do, right? And then I thought, what do I do as a psychologist? How do I approach student mental health as a psychologist when I have my psychologist hat on? And I do see some students in private practice, mainly dealing with depression and anxiety, not my own students, of course. So how, when I have my psychologist hat on, how do I embrace student mental health? Well, I think about the student as a whole person. I think about what are their thoughts and feelings? How are they coping with stress? Do they have good supportive relationships? Do they have good sleep hygiene, good nutrition? Are they engaging in physical exercise? Do they feel safe, secure? Are they thinking about what they want in life for themselves beyond the career? Can they see the big picture instead of just focusing on the grade? Are they mindful? Do they live in the present? Do they have meaning and purpose in their lives? Think of all of these things, and I help students try to develop some of these things. And you know, it's interesting because when they're able to, they actually fare better academically, as you can imagine. So on the one hand, I have my academic job with all of the challenges that that comes with. And then on the other hand, I have my psychology job, which all that entails. And then it dawned on me. Academia reinforces and perpetuates the stigma around mental illness. You can imagine my horror as a psychologist when I realized that as an academic, I'm part of the problem. It was an epiphany to me. In academia, we have a culture of achievement, which is good, but we do little to acknowledge the whole person. In academia, we have a culture, sort of an environment of survival of the fittest. It's an us, the mentally the achievers, the leaders, the mentally fit, and them, those who struggle, those who fall behind, those who may drop out. So, I'm going to show you just a few taglines and phrases from mission statements of university websites, just to highlight what I'm talking about. Lots of good things, right? Inspiring minds, set your future in motion, academic rigor, performance standards, innovative leaders, academic excellence, intellectual power. They're all very strong words, right? Very bold words, very kind of go-get-them words. When we think about looking at our university websites, and we see images of celebrating people who have achieved, award-winning scholars and students, leaders, researchers, all of those things. We think about now about what it means to be mentally healthy. And I was thinking about, here are some phrases for you. Tell me if you agree with these. Becoming mindful, appreciate the present, have meaning and sense of purpose, establish good coping skills, self-actualize, have healthy relationships. I think these are all good things to have. All things that we talk about when we talk about mental health. Okay? Now, I have heard the words that universities are not in the business of mental health care. But we are. We have to be. If we are proposing that we inspire minds and help students thrive in the academic environment, that we are fostering them to become innovative leaders and intellectual powers, then we are in the business of mental health care. We see the stats that sometimes over 50% of students are experiencing symptoms of things like depression and anxiety, then we are in the business of mental health care. If we think that we are helping to develop our future lawyers, physicians, pilots, business people, politicians, many of whom may go on and actually develop a mental illness, then we are in the business of healthcare. And I think you would agree with me when I say that I would rather have a lawyer who is aware of her depression and without shame address it. I'd rather have a politician who acknowledges addiction issues. And I had that one already set, Dr. Goldblum. Than one who does not and actually gets help for it. So, what do we do? Well, The academy could deny it, or we could embrace student mental health. And I think if we decide that we're going to embrace student mental health, then it's going to require a fundamental shift in thinking and practice. Now, I'm not suggesting here that we do away with academic standards and excellence and achievement. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that I think we need to do a better job of integrating the two to help our students thrive and to help break the stigma around mental illness. I think it's going to require that we're bold, that we take risks, and that we begin to really value all the things within academia, all the things that make the student a whole person. And as one student in I actually tried this talk out with my clinical psychology students, and I said I would acknowledge them in this, that they gave me lots of great feedback. And as one student pointed out, you know, if a student is thriving, the university benefits. And I would like to add that if a student is thriving, then family benefits, parents benefit, and society does as a whole. But what if? What if professors started to normalize mental illness by openly talking about it in their courses? By talking about the possibility that that some of their students may have problems. And this is regardless of discipline that I'm suggesting this. I started doing that this year, just this year. I'm a psychologist. I should have been doing this long ago, right? But that's the disconnect. And one of the students in my clinical psychology courses, she's a fourth-year student, and she said, you know, you're the first one in all of my courses, of all of my professors, who actually said these words out loud. Why, that was really something. What if professors started including on their outlines policy that doesn't just address physical illness and what to do when you lose a loved one, but policy around mental illness as well? What if we started not just talking about good study habits, but we talk about the importance of good mental health care and how to go about that, and include it on our outlines? What if we started sharing our own mental illness stories, or the stories of our friends and family and how they coped? I think students really learn from stories. It's those experiential aha moments that they have that really impacts them and makes them want to change. And I think if we started sharing our stories, then students won't feel so different, so alone. What if principals and presidents of universities regularly added a message, mental health message, in with their welcoming message on their websites? And then that would say to students and to parents that this is an issue that's on our radar. This is a principal component of nurturing the whole person. What if when we celebrate those high achievers, that we also maybe add a mental health bio with their permission? Right? We often look to the great leaders, the great thinkers, the great artists. When we're talking about mental illness, we talk about Vincent van Gogh, we talk about John Nash, right? We talk about Winston Churchill. I was really happy to see Chris Hadfield openly talked about his phobia of heights recently in Maclean's. What if we started viewing the word accommodation positively? What if we, for its purpose, what if we rename it proaction or something like that? What if we started integrating mental health care actually into the curriculum? Maybe adding a lifestyle mental health care course as part of the regular program, something that students actually have to take in order to graduate. I have a cousin who is a jazz musician, and he's an instructor at a community college in a music program. And they have a course called the Musical Lifestyles course. And this is aimed at helping musicians who are about to go into a lifestyle of gigging. And they do things like talk about working late nights and parties and drug and alcohol use, because that's not part of the profession. All of these things, so that when they finish and then they start their careers, they know what to expect, and hopefully they know better how to handle those kinds of things. So what if our lifestyles course included things like romantic and sexual relationships, mental health, coping at university, coping with anxiety, time management, finances, all of these kinds of things. What if we, and now I may be going way out on a limb here, but what if we added, we have the academic transcript, we've got the co-curricular transcript, some universities do, that documents non-academic activities like volunteering. What if we added something like an academic health transcript? And it would document ways in which students have done things for self-care, yoga, meditation, training that they've taken to deal with mental health, anything that they've done to address stigma. What if graduate programs and law schools, med schools, employers started to value this added component? And we're kind of moving away from just looking at GPAs and achievement on standardized tests to valuing things like volunteering and leadership. And so if we had this added component, we speak about valuing the whole person. What if we took all of the things that are really good and that we purport to do at universities, and we started to embed language that talks about mental health? We started talking about not only academic excellence, but academic health. Challenging, yes, but not impossible. And I just wanted to point out that Caucus and CMHA have come out with a guide recently, I'm sure some of you are aware of this, that really helps universities to take a very systematic approach to developing things around mental health. It's a fabulous guide, and I'd encourage you to have a look at that. So in closing, what I'd like to say is that I think in order to address mental health, student mental health within the university and beyond our hallowed halls, the Academy really needs to take leadership on this issue. I think to break the stigma that we've got to talk about it in our courses, we've got to talk about it with students, we've got to talk about it with each other, regardless of discipline. I think if we really want to make a difference, that we need to have the necessity of embracing student mental health on the radars of not only administrators, students, student service, but I think that we need to have it on the radars of academics as well. Thank you.